It's gotten real September 2020 up in crypto land, which is to say that it feels apocalyptic. So before I get into this episode, I'm going to show you a very much needed video of a fox laughing. All right, you're welcome. Now, I haven't been making a lot of content because I haven't had a ton to say. My playbook has been very simple, which is that if we went under 60K, that I was gonna buy those lows. I did put whatever fiat and stablecoins I had into the market at that time. And now we are revisiting those lows again. And to be honest, this is one of those where it's truly a very important pivot point for the market. Now, I put this up on Twitter the other day and I stand by this. One thing that I hope happens during the market reset is that the market pivots back to purpose. Memes pumping is fun, easier to get people to understand, etc. However, it undeniably lacks the feeling of purpose or mission. I'm not a gambler, true. I don't like casinos, I don't sports bet, I just don't enjoy it. That's me personally. I don't enjoy just risking money to make a double up or whatever. It's not fun to me. I don't enjoy it. I have enough risk in my life with these markets. I am a believer in crypto's higher aspirations to improve opportunities for average people. That's why I constantly make videos. I constantly try to give every piece of knowledge I have to the community, and I try to build stuff that I believe will actually help push crypto forward. That's why I believe in gaming. Personally, I believe that the meme super cycle truly lacks almost everything I find interesting about crypto. Again, this is one increasingly older man's opinion. I want to build stuff, buy coins from gigabrains, and see products impact normie culture. I want to see the NBA of minds compete to create an industry that actually dramatically improves life for everyone. I want to see crypto get back to being about mission. Maybe I'm a boomer, but I hope that coins that actually do stuff become the centerpiece of the industry after Bitcoin all-time high. That's what happened last cycle, and I do believe we can do it again. The purpose/mission is what gives me fire and motivation, not raw gambling. I think this is true for many, many others out there. Happy first day of summer. And I put this out on June 21st. Now, to drive this point home, friendly reminder that the most probable outcome in market is often the simplest. You don't need 40 tweet threads from VCs to know what's next. You just need to ask yourself what happens when/if regulation loosens and the cost to borrow money becomes cheap again. Now, again, that was a little bit on market outlook. The truth is that I think these memes overpopulating and burning out is part of a natural cycle to drive people back to coins that are much harder to replicate. Again, you might think that there's too many utility coins or that they don't do enough, but certainly it's better than a coin that can be replicated 100 times within 1 minute. Even if you don't think it serves a purpose yet, building stuff on chain is hard, it's grueling work, it takes time, and it's much harder to replicate a team building stuff than a team that's not building stuff. And that's my only point, is that the purpose is what's made me so excited about this particular industry. And I sincerely hope that crypto comes back to that throughout this altcoin reckoning. That's my genuine hope. And now let's get into what's really happening, because there is a ton happening in the charts that you need to know about. But as Vance says here, and Vance runs a major fund here investing in crypto, has been in here for a long time, he says it's the September 2020 vibe. I couldn't agree more. In fact, my pinned tweet right now is remember the end of December 2020. And this was actually as Bitcoin was already making new highs December 2020. But check out these screenshots of sentiment around the end of December 2020 and tell me if you don't see some similarities to today. Mind you, Bitcoin on December 26 was already well over $20,000, well over the prior all-time high by at least 25%. Not comfortable at all seeing BTC move and alt dead like this. Alt dead, sir. Yes, alt dead until further notice. Yes, the childish Gambino meme with the altcoins. ETH looks dead, so alt never gonna catch up to BTC run. This was December 27th. Now, there's almost no better way to illustrate this than I think the Matic chart, which if you look here ranged for 2 years. And if we look even closer, as Bitcoin was breaking its all-time high, right here towards the end of December, it was completely lifeless, even at the bottom end of the range. Now, Matic went on to reach about $3, right? And back then it was just a few cents. So over 100x from that point. So again, over 150x from where it was when Bitcoin really broke its all-time high. Same with Solana. If you look, Solana had this miraculous run from 60 cents up to, about $5 here, almost a 10x from the bear market lows. And then in September, it just completely collapsed. And here it is. Bitcoin is already breaking its all-time high convincingly. And Solana was sitting here at about $1.30, right? And this is down from $5. So it feels completely collapsed, about 80% collapsed. Well, we know how that story ended with it running up here to $250. The reason why I show you this is that if you haven't seen this movie before, it can seem very convincing that alts are dead and gone and the market has no interest in them. And furthermore, Bitcoin might have some strength, but really it's all doom and gloom on the timeline. I want to play this movie for you again because this is why I was able to bet when it looked scary last year in 2023. And again, there's no guarantee guarantees here. There's never been any guarantees in crypto land, but I have not sold any coins. I saw a comment saying I'm bragging about making bank. No, well, I'm bragging about buying publicly stuff that has gone up, but the truth is I haven't sold any coins like I've been telling you. So I haven't secured any profits at all, which might seem insane considering that there were quite a few profits to secure. But the truth is I'd rather be riding with the community completely in the same boat, fighting the battles right next to you all, because that way when the strategy eventually pays off, I will have done it with the community. So that's just my approach. And I'd rather be with the community, preserving the connection and the authenticity with the community than securing short-term profits. That's just the truth. And yes, I do get mocked behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and all around the scenes for being this way, but I don't really care. I'd rather do this whole crypto thing in the most authentic way to me possible. Now, with that said, Bitcoin is under 60K, and this is actually really not good. It's really not good. It's the truth is it's not good. So Bitcoin being under 60K here is a tremendous amount of weakness. One of the things that I do find interesting though is that there's other coins like Coin, which has obviously been a darling of the channel, that are actually up 16% on the day. Now, it's important to remember the ETH ETF is about to go live in less than 2 weeks. And so maybe MOG is signaling that the ETH bulls are actually looking for beta within the ETH category and they're front running potential supply shock coming from the ETF. That's one way to look at this, is that this is one hand being shown, is that ETH native alts are actually down less bad than Bitcoin, which is a very interesting thing to observe. There's no question that if Bitcoin violates these lows that we saw at the beginning of May, it would at least mean temporarily we're going to have an extended correction, even more so than we've been seeing, before hopefully a breakout towards the end of the year. Now, I've been seeing a lot of comments on the timeline about how the gaming thing is just not going to happen, never going to happen. And I think it's really important to realize that the biggest gaming hit we've seen, Axie Infinity, was actually out in market for a very long time before it eventually hit its success and ended up going viral and getting millions and millions of players across the world and triggering metaverse mania of 2021. Now, as you can see, the coin was ranging well under $1. It eventually hit $160. It went on about a 300x run from these prices here in the end of 2020. You can see it stayed under $1 until about the beginning of February. If you look at Bitcoin, the beginning of February 2021, the Bitcoin price was already $35,000. Its prior all-time high being $20,000. That means that Bitcoin had already gone well over 1.5x from its prior all-time highs. Putting that in relative terms, if you were to see a 1.5x over the prior high of 69K, you're looking at Bitcoin over 100K here, right? So you're looking at over 100K Bitcoin before you see convincing moves into the altcoins. I'm setting things up because I want you to understand the precursors to the prior alt season and what actually happened and how long it took before we saw the money truly flow into the utility alts, into the useful alts that people were considering dead. People were considering things like Matic and other coins completely dead and were leaving them behind. And then boom, we got an L1 season the likes the world had never seen before. It is quite literally always darkest before dawn in crypto land. And that's why at a time like this, with Bitcoin breaking below 60K, it feels as though things are about to truly plummet. And usually those emotions, those negative emotions, are the biggest signal to buy in. As you know, I've been chucking all my money at this market for a very long time. I do not have a significant amount of stable coins to throw at this. My cash position that I live off of is just going to remain my cash position. That way I can remain risk on in crypto. So look, if we break down below those prior lows on Bitcoin, yes, it's going to be a very, very rough summer. However, there is potential that things could be looking to reverse here, with alts down not as bad as Bitcoin on a pretty severe down day for Bitcoin. And all this while we have a new ETF for a much smaller asset in Ethereum loading for just a few days from today. Remember, these are things that we used to pray for, and now we're literally getting an altcoin ETF on the stock market. It's crazy. And the timeline is apocalyptic. As Vance says here, in a market principally concerned with token supply overhang, remember, this is what everyone's talking about, is these new coins that have too many investor unlocks, too many new coins to hit the market, and therefore they're not performing because nobody's there to buy these unlocks. I agree, there's way too many coins, there's way too many unlocks, but there are plenty of assets that are not subject to these particular setups, and one of which is ETH. If you look, actually 4 million ETH have been burned since August 2021, which is the EIP 1559 upgrade, which allowed for each transaction to burn a little bit of ETH. This made ETH deflationary. And as you can see here, the amount of ETH on exchanges is tiny compared to 2 years ago. If anything, the supply dynamics of ETH are way better. There just needs to be a spark, a catalyst of demand, and it's very likely that ETH could see massive price increase. As you know, I'm also a heavy subscriber of the thesis of the hated rally. We've seen the hated rally take place. It was one of the primary drivers of my bullishness of Solana. Eventually, Solana took on a whole new life of its own, and the actual core utility and popularity of the chain became the driving factor of that thesis. But the hated rally was the original driver of that thesis. And now I think there is almost no more hated rally than what would happen with ETH. People are so negative towards ETH that if it did rally, it would probably cause a ton of outrage, which is what you love to see in crypto. The more contrarian things are, the more likely they are to have huge payoffs, especially when you see something as solid, as deeply ingrained in the actual fabric of crypto as ETH. But again, it's so crucial to realize that we are still below all-time highs in Bitcoin. What's really interesting here is this tweet by Walter Bloomberg. He says Bernstein expects Bitcoin to hit 200K by 2025. While bears argue that the Bitcoin ETF trade is done, and most of the early Bitcoin ETF allocations were driven by retail investors, and the analyst admits this is true, bears are missing that the Bitcoin ETFs are on the cusp of approvals at major wirehouses and large private bank platforms in Q3 or Q4, and the institutional basis trade looks like the Trojan horse for adoption. These investors are in the process of evaluating net long positions, and the analyst contends the firm is expecting Bitcoin to rise to a cycle high of 200,000 by 2025, 500,000 by 2029, and 1 million by 2033. Translation is that these investors are just starting to really size up their long-term buys, and the initial ETF flows have been more of a cash and carry trade, a retail flow trade, but it hasn't been this big institutional push yet. These things take a while to fully set in. The ETF approval is just the first of many dominoes for institutions to start loading up on this asset. In fact, a lot of things need to change, and they're very slow to change in the traditional finance world. So we have not yet seen the true effects of the Bitcoin ETF, not even close. And we also have, for the first time ever, a presidential candidate actively engaging with the crypto and Bitcoin community. It is extremely bullish because once you politicize a certain issue, that issue will continue to get attention, and most likely it will be treated more fairly over time. We're already seeing tons of Democrats respond and have a more tempered approach towards crypto the more that Trump has doubled down on his stances supporting crypto. It's a very interesting dynamic to see. Again, I want to be very clear. This is not a politics channel. I am a crypto channel, and I support all moves that actually make crypto more likely to succeed. Right now, that's happening way more on the Republican side, but I do hold hope that the Democratic Party can realize that this is very pro-individual, very pro the little guy, and hopefully we can see a softening of the stance on the Democratic Party and crypto find a hospitable home in America. And just when you thought Michael Saylor was doing all he could do, you see Michael Dell, the other Captain Michael here, who's the head of a publicly traded company you might have heard of called Dell, that they make those computer things. Yeah, the rumors are that they're looking to start micro-strategizing their balance sheet, which essentially means they're going to start converting their cash into Bitcoin. That is a trade that has worked out extremely well for Michael Saylor, and if Michael Dell starts doing it, you can see the trend kick up, and more public companies will start converting their cash into more long-term scarcity assets that could grow in value. This MicroStrategy playbook is one of the biggest potential catalysts for the next cycle, and I find it very interesting that right below the all-time high, we're seeing yet another public company founder named Michael jump and throw his hat into the ring to come be the captain of the Bitcoin ship.
There is no second best.
Very interesting stuff. Also interesting, we have more Mt. Gox FUD. If you don't know, there was an exchange called Mt. Gox. It was the main crypto exchange in 2014. It got hacked, and we've been hearing every few months since that they're going to return the coins to the people who got hacked, and that would cause some massive sell event. So we call this the Mt. Gox FUD. And what's interesting is the last 3 times the Mt. Gox FUD was dropped was March 6, 2023, right, which is marked off here. We have November 22nd, 2023, and we have January 6, 2023, all of which were massively awesome times to buy in. You can't help but feel as though a certain level, these Mt. Gox FUD reports come out at almost the worst times. It's like pouring salt in the wound when the markets are super weak. Maybe this is some other form of market manipulation where the powers that be, the crypto press cabal, seeks to shake us out of our coins. In the end, I have a very simple long-term view of how I invest in these coins. And so these moments and these pivots are not something that I base anything off of, but it's interesting to see that this could be yet another example of them trying to FUD the lows. We certainly hope so. Now, I will say the worst part about this is that Eric Crown is saying that under 60K is a pretty vulnerable place for Bitcoin, and that we'll start to see some serious downside if we hold under 60K. But more specifically, he said that we really need to hold over the prior lows. And the prior lows are coming in here. They are right at 56, just above 56,000. So that's like the absolute do or die, must hold above those numbers. But honestly, holding above 60 would be really, really awesome here. It would be absolutely amazing to start seeing alts catch a bid, start seeing money rotate into ETH, and Bitcoin regain some strength above 60. That would really really show that we could be in for a recovery starting now. Otherwise, downside is possible. And I'll talk about what I'm going to be doing at the end of this video personally, which I'm sure you're all waiting for. So definitely strap in because I'm going to be sharing my personal approach to this downside. But let's get more into the coins here because we have Coin, which is shockingly up 20%. Let me go ahead and refresh this. We have Coin up 21% on the day, and this is a huge down day. Now, Coin is a meme coin. It's one of the few meme coins that I've actually had on my list, and I told you it's one of my few meme winners. I'm still holding 100% of what I've bought way earlier in the year. And the general thought process is that MOG will do well as people see ETH doing well. So maybe this is a bit of an early signal that people see ETH doing well as a result of this new ETF. That would absolutely stand to reason. Right now, the charts are certainly not showing that on the ETH chart, but it would be really interesting to see if ETH does catch a rotation here and coins like MOG and other perceived ETH beta start to really heat up. We're also seeing similar strength in Lido DAO. Lido is where you stake your Ethereum, up 11% on the day. All of these seem to be indicating that ETH beta trades, or things that should go up with the ETH trade, are starting to actually front run that potential turnaround in ETH. This is all really, really interesting stuff. And certainly if you're looking for a dose of hopium, this is it. Again, we're seeing Bitcoin down 7% on the day. ETH is down 4.5% on the day. Again, anytime that ETH is down less than Bitcoin, that is relative strength. And you can see it's even starting to try to pop back up against this line that it collapsed from earlier. Again, it's a really interesting thing to see such little supply of ETH, such little FOMO and desire for ETH, and yet relative strength coming into the ETF, which is a surprise victory for ETH that very few would have predicted even a year ago, even a few months ago. And so what should be a victory celebration is turning into a bit of a pity party. And these again are contrarian moments in the markets where if you're right and ETH does end up catching wind here, you'll be one of the few people taking advantage of it in a down bad and depressed market. Those are the types of setups that have huge risk reward payoffs. As Nick said here, I'm far less bearish than I was at 70K. Obviously on this channel, I wasn't bearish at 70K because at any moment, this market can go absolutely parabolic with all of the inflows, all of the tailwinds, and all of the potential that we'll talk about in a minute. He said he's almost bullish, you might say. A little bit to go IMO, but you can see the divergence in alts right now getting ready. He said, I've started scaling into my favorite alts on spot. We'll go heavy, another 10 to 15% down, but the DCA has begun. We also have Rhino, who's saying he's starting to stab at some alts. He was waiting for 60K, was just shocked at how fast it came. Just a very brief interlude here. Obviously, if you don't have a NordVPN subscription, please check them out. You can get a big fat juicy discount. There is absolutely no software that you need more than a VPN. Any VPN will do, but in my opinion, Nord is the best. You get a big fat juicy discount for using my link in the description. I know that most of you already have a subscription to a VPN because you are certified crypto veterans at this point if you're watching this video. In the depths of the bear of 2024, with Bitcoin around $60,000, it feels weird to say that we feel like we're in a bear, but here we are. If you don't have a VPN, check them out. It is the cheapest way to stay safe online. It's like $2 a month and you get a money back 30-day guarantee. You literally cannot lose here. And as always, if you sign up with my link, it supports the channel and I appreciate you. All right, crypto, we need to talk because the reality is that crypto feels in some ways like it's lost its way. The meme coin frenzy has culminated with coins like Mother, Daddy, which was the Andrew Tate coin, Jenner. All of these have gone to literal zero. And there's so many people in the comments saying, look, meme coins are the only thing worth investing. All these VC coins are trash. They're terrible. But the truth is that there's been such an increase in supply of meme coins that it's almost impossible to win on them. Because even though meme coins might be fairly distributed, we know they're not fairly distributed because a bunch of insiders usually control enough coins to completely tank the price. But regardless, the perception that these are fairly distributed, and more importantly, they're launched at cheap enough values that if they do catch wind, you can make some money on them. That's true. But the truth is also that 99.9999999% of these go to literal zero, whereas most alts, while they might struggle, don't go to literal zero. They're a very different dynamic with alts that actually have some liquidity. Looking for high quality alts that don't have significant token overhangs is certainly something we should all be doing. We should all be familiar with good tokenomics and what that looks like. However, the truth remains that crypto needs to get back to its purpose. That's my genuine hope. So now you might be wondering what I'm going to be doing. Well, as I stare at Bitcoin sitting now comfortably below 60K, it definitely looks extremely, extremely weak. But the truth is that I don't know which way this market's going to go. It could tumble down or it could literally snap back up in what feels like an instant. I personally have been buying and DCAing since way lower, so I'm willing to see the market tumble a little bit and just hold on to my coins. Now, if the market does violate the May lows, that's like under 56K, it could tumble significantly further. And if you seeing your alts and your bags go down significantly is going to be too stressful for you, maybe you do want to sell and rebuy lower. I'm not going to be doing that because I don't believe I can predict this market. And I also believe that the sentiment and volumes and everything I see around me feels like it's marking a local bottom. It feels so September 2020. And mind you, September 2020 doesn't mean we're going to instantly reverse. reverse, right? It wasn't until January that things started really getting hot again for altcoins like Solana. But I do remember the devastation I felt, and I felt at times like it would be best to just sell everything and run away. And I ended up buying and doubling down during that dip, which ended up being some of my best trades I've ever made in my life, including buying things like Axie Infinity under $1. Again, past performance is no guarantee of future performance, but I'm going to stick to this plan because it really feels like I see bottom signals everywhere. The amount of cope and anger and negativity on the timeline, I've only seen it in times where it was almost a perfect cinematic bottom buying opportunity. Again, there's no guarantee that that repeats, but for that reason, I'm going to hold my coins and I'm going to do nothing and just wait for my thesis to play out. I've bought things that I believe will continue to be important assets within the market cycle in gaming and AI, L1s, and even a couple of memes like Mog and Pepe. Even though I make fun of myself and I'm a relatively bad meme trader, the reality is that I've done okay in memes compared to I think what I see a lot of other people talking about, because I bet really small and I bet on things that feel like they have some kind of special social current. Maybe it's just luck or whatever, but better lucky than good in memes, I guess. And again, I'm not saying memes won't pump. Clearly there will be meme winners. I just think that buying new memes at 2 mil market cap and riding them to $1 billion, that might not be happening very often, if ever again during this cycle. I think the rapid supply of new meme coins makes it really hard for small new meme coins to gain that critical mass. But I do think some of the more established ones will continue to solidify throughout this dip and gain strength. And I think the same for sure for altcoins that do cool stuff in the core categories of gaming and AI. My tune has not changed. My strategy has not changed. And hey, look, I'm riding here on the ship 100% with you guys, have taken zero profits throughout this froth because I want to be in the boat with the community. And if I'm right and this thing takes off and gaming and AI send like crazy, well, I'm going to be so happy that I'm on the ride with the community. So I'm not doing anything. I'm looking at an ETH ETF. I'm looking at the need to lower rates from the federal government, which will drive people back into risk. I'm looking at regulation softening, with crypto becoming a hotly debated topic at the federal level during this election. And I'm looking at, in general, an opportunity to ride the next capital wave into crypto. So what am I doing? I'm not doing anything. Wherever I'm going to find fiat laying around that I do not need for my daily expenses, I'm going to be trying to buy in at the lows into the coins that I believe in, the coins that I've covered on this channel in AI, gaming, and of course the L1 Holy Trinity, maybe a little extra into Telegram lately, as I think the Ton coin and that blockchain will be getting a lot of heat later in the year. But I hope this video helps, and I'll be doing my best to give you as much information. But also my goal with these videos is to make content that stands the test of time and that I look back and I feel like I don't need to constantly update. So doing daily videos sometimes feels like you need to dig for topics, and that's why I don't want to force content out when I'm not really feeling it. I'm trying to make content at key pivot points in the market. And as you could see, I was wrong on the range highs, but I was right on the previous range lows. And I hope that I'm right again on these range lows. But I just wanted to let you guys know I'm riding fully in the market with you guys. I'm either going to look like a total buffoon or a total genius. And that, my friends, is the nature of crypto. I sincerely hope these videos are helping you. Make sure to smash that like button. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm very excited to keep building what I see as the most important utilities in the most important niche in crypto, which, as you know, I believe is gaming. We need a consumer app. We need an app that people uses. We need to make this stuff real. And I simply don't see many other applications of this technology that really work for the consumer besides gaming. If we start seeing them catch on, I'll be the first to celebrate them. But for now, I stick to the mission and I continue to push with all of you other fellow bulls. As always, I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.